The playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
The Rita Cosby Show
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
More activity taking place in Iran. The latest is the United States has shot down at least 4 Iranian attack drones and also some missile sites where they say that there were some firings by Iranian forces against the U.S. So much for a ceasefire being in place. And meantime, you've got the Iranian, quote, supreme leader, and I call him in quotes because we don't even know if the guy's alive. We have no idea if he's the real deal or if he's just a fiction of their imagination because he has never spoken. We have never seen him. And he's coming out and essentially declaring all-out activities against America will be in full force and that they shouldn't think of any bases in the Middle East. I mean, the rhetoric is really ratcheting up. The question is, where is this going? And everybody's wondering, what's the timetable, especially with the midterms now just a few months away? And clearly, President Trump is on a roll. My goodness, great news. Last night, we were all going through it together when the results were coming in. And Ken Paxton handily wins the U.S. Senate race for the Republican primary there in Texas, 2-1. That's called a trouncing. And President Trump, he's back, get this, in the 2026 cycle. It's 118 different candidates, and he has 118-0 now. So I'd say that's a pretty good track record. Pretty good, maybe even better than the Knicks, even though they're doing really well. I'm still betting on the Knicks, you guys. I have a lot of friends who are talking about the Oklahoma Thunders, and I'm like, no. Don't say that. That is a swear word around here, but we'll see where it goes. By the way, President Trump also talking very much about attending the Knicks game. How cool would that be? He said he'd like to be there for at least one of the big games next week. So we'll see what happens there. In the meantime, of course, all eyes on Iran and President Trump. I love, the fact he does a cabinet meeting today. And he answered more questions in the Signal cabinet meeting than I think Joe Biden did in his whole term. And President Trump talked about a variety of things, from the recent assassination attempts against him, the ICE facility in New Jersey. We're going to definitely get to that because there are reports that some of the protesters were now spraying chemicals on agents. That's not allowed. That's a crime. I hope they throw the book at those people. And why are Democrats still out there protesting on behalf of these illegal criminal migrants, some of them with the worst of the worst track record? I can't believe it. When you hear the details of this, these people are murderers, rapists, pedophiles, and they're still out there protesting every day like they've got Mother Teresa inside. Boy, they need to wake up. And in the meantime, President Trump obviously answering a lot of questions about Iran. And the press was saying to him, are you worried? The midterms are right around the corner. Not right, but, a few months away now. And are you concerned about the price of gas? Obviously, gas is high. We're heading into now the summer months, and it makes it more difficult on the average American family. But President Trump said, you know what? Yeah, I obviously care about the American family, but I also care about world peace. And I love the fact that he is just sticking it to Iran. He said, essentially that they thought that they could kind of drag this out and that they could beat me in the waiting game. Well, surprise, surprise, I will outweight them. Take a listen to this. This is what President Trump had to say in his cabinet meeting just a few hours ago.
Economic system is broken down. They thought they were going to outweight me. We'll outweight him. He's got the midterms. I don't care about the midterms. Look what happened last night. That was the prelude to the midterms.
That's a prelude to the midterms. They thought they could outweight me. He gets the game. He understands what's going on. They're hoping, okay, they can drag it out and thinking, okay, if they get near the midterms closer and closer, then President Trump is not going to want to do some sort of strike or any sort of disruption even more with the oil markets and gas prices and everything else. And he basically said, you know what? It's apples and oranges. Yeah, I care about the midterms, but I also will make sure that Iran never has a nuclear weapon. And he also was so powerful today. All I kept thinking about is what a contrast that is to Joe Biden, you guys. If Joe Biden was in the office right now, you'd be going, pray for America with the Iranian regime. And yet President Trump said, I have no doubt, he said, that they were inches away from a nuclear weapon. And he said if they had it, they would use it. Listen to this chilling comment from President Trump.
Regardless of anything, as Marco said better than anybody can say it, you can't let them have a nuclear weapon. They would use it instantly. They wouldn't think about it. They would use it instantly. I've gotten to know them. They would use it instantly.
They would use it instantly. And he also said that they were 2 weeks away, he believed, from a nuclear weapon when they sent those B-2 bombers in back in June. 2 weeks away. If that is not sobering, I don't know what is. Thank goodness he had the courage to go in there and decimate those nuclear sites. And right now he said, I don't really care about politics. I care about ending this appropriately. I'm not going to rush. I'm not going to take a half deal. I'm not going to take a bad deal. I'm only going to take a good deal. That's the only thing that matters right now. And he also, sent a message to other countries that may want to help with Iran, whether it's sort of tying up the Strait of Hormuz or other things. Now, remember, Oman is an ally of ours. Oman has been helpful with some of these peace talks. But even still, President Trump said, you do not mess with the U.S. Listen to this message of what he sent to Oman.
Would you accept a short-term deal that allows Iran and Oman to control the strait? And would they have to open it immediately, or would you be open to that happening over a period of time?
No, the strait's going to be open to everybody.
And who would control it?
It's international waters. Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the negotiation that we have. They would like to control it. Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, so we'll have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine.
Oman will have to abide by everybody else, or if not, they'll just be a pile of rubble. That's all. He'll be fine as a pile of rubble. But he's basically sending a message clearly to anyone who wants to sort of play both sides. And he's trying to put pressure on Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Kuwait to join the Abraham Accords in the middle of all this. So is Trump right to say, listen, I get your game, Iran, and we can wait you out and we will starve you out. We will not open up the blockade and we will keep crushing you economically. And if we have to, he looked over at Pete Hegseth and said, the Secretary of War will be very busy if you don't come to terms. And then Pete Hegseth was like, yeah, I'm ready to go. I'm ready, locked and loaded. Very different game than it was with President Obama and President Joe Biden. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. And also President Trump talking about the New Jersey ICE facility. This is incredible. You look at the people that are in there. There are some that have multiple assaults. There are some that have rape charges in there, murder. There are pedophiles in there. And yet, what is wrong with the Democratic Party? Today, we saw Jerry Nadler and Dan Goldman, both New York Democrats, show up at the facility and say, we want to go visit our great people. Our great people? I'm sorry. I don't think I've ever called a murderer or a rapist a great person. But that's what they're doing. They're showing up there. The New Jersey governor was out there. We're going to see Cory Booker. He said he can't wait to get out there next week or maybe later this week even, because he just feels so bad for the people that are inside that ICE detention facility. Now, this ICE detention facility sounds like a pretty good deal. And I think about years ago, I went to Guantanamo, and there were stories at that time that in Guantanamo, that the inmates there, the detainees, as they call them, were being abused. And the report was, oh, this is so terrible. What's happening to them? They're being beaten. They're being this. They're being that. It's really horrible. We feel so sorry for them. This is not fair. This is just really, completely inappropriate to do to these individuals. And when I got there, I saw the ping pong tables. And then I also saw all the other things. And it included like movies. And I saw the dental chair. They're like, oh, yeah, we give them free dental. We give them free this. And they said some of the people, remember, a lot of these people back then, and especially in Guantanamo, they came from Afghanistan and some other places. Do you think they had dental work there in Afghanistan? I don't think so. So for some of them, they were getting the luxuries like they've never gotten before. And I remember leaving there and thinking, I don't think, at least what I saw, were them being abused. I saw very nice, clean cells. I saw them being treated very respectfully. And in some cases, it looked even nicer than some of our U.S. prisons. So, I mean, it was just, to me, what I saw was hogwash coming from the mainstream media with some of these reports. Maybe there were cases, but I can just say overwhelmingly what I saw was not the case. And then you go to this ICE detention facility in Newark, New Jersey, where the governor is saying, oh, it has to shut down. Now, here are the facts. The ICE detention group, the ICE immigration group puts out, here's the list, what they get. All the detainees, again, murderers, rapists, all these others, they're provided with 3 meals a day, clean water, clothing, bedding, showers, toiletries. Illegal aliens also have access to phones to communicate with their family members and lawyers. They have a dietitian on hand. That's pretty good. You have a nutritionist. I'd love to have a nutritionist free of charge. And they have also a lot of other different extras that they do not have in U.S. prisons for U.S. citizens. So they're bending over backwards for these rapists, murderers, and others. And yet there are still these Democrats out there preposterously protesting outside. So today, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne Mullen, who was sitting really close to President Trump in the cabinet meeting, was asked about the fact that there are some people inside, boo-hoo-hoo, who are saying they don't want to eat some of the food because they're saying it's not exactly appropriate for them ethnically, that it's not exactly the right type. It's not like it's disrespectful. It's not like they're forcing them to eat pork or something that they're not in line with. It's just not the right kind of pork or maybe the one that mama made or whatever the case is, right? Give me a break. These, again, are criminals who are behind bars in the detention facility. And I think Mark Wayne Mullen gave the line of the day. And it has to do with a certain hotel chain. Take a listen.
And they choose Memorial Day of all the day, of all the time to go protest something that they say that that it's because they're on a hunger strike when there was only a handful of individuals that was refusing to eat because they want their ethnic group or their ethnic right food. Well, they go back to their country and get whatever food they want. The fact is, we're giving them the calories they want. This isn't Holiday Inn.
It isn't Holiday Inn. It sounds even better than some of the Holiday Inns I've stayed in. And I've stayed in a lot of hotels as I've traveled across the country for work, guys. But this sounds pretty good. And yet it's not good enough for these people. And they actually have Democrats outside. How do they think that that's a winning political issue? They look like they're insane, sitting out there and saying, oh, free them. Let's close the detention center. Let them roam wild. Why don't you send them to their house to stay if they're so worried about the situation? That, to me, is really utterly preposterous. And before we go to break, I want to play this. This is Joe Scarborough. You got to hear this. A host on MS Now. And this is what he had to say. He said, no, calling them detention centers is not politically correct. He has another phrase that really is reprehensible.
100 men jammed into one room, no guards that will actually come in there. They're sharing maybe 1 or 2 filthy backed up toilets. It's unbelievable. But Mika, I was getting to the point that you just made, which is a lot of people will say stupidly, oh, they're illegal. They get what they deserve. First of all, you don't know if they're here illegally. Secondly, the rules keep changing. Now we're going after people applying for green cards and saying now they have to be sent home, people that are in the application process. But I know the Constitution doesn't mean much to you if you are in the cult. I know it doesn't, because you've proven time and again the United States Constitution and constitutional norms don't matter to you. But none other than Antonin Scalia was asked the question, who does the United States apply to? And Scalia said, well, it applies to American citizens living in the United States. It applies to American citizens living all across the world. And Scalia, the godfather of conservative jurisprudence, said, and it applies to anybody that is in the United States of America. They are protected by constitutional rights. Those constitutional rights are being just torn to shreds every single day inside of these internment camps, and it's time that something be done.
Internment camps. Obviously, that is a reference to World War II. What a despicable, horrible analogy. And to sit there and say, well, we have to be so much more careful. Obviously, you don't want to have anybody abused. If somebody is abused, that should be known. But the fact that they're not happy with maybe a little bit of the food, the spices, or the servings, I'm sorry, I could care less. 1-800-848-9222, and we'll take your calls when we come back.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Peaceful protests outside that ICE facility in Newark, New Jersey. And yet it's like more Democrats are glomming on, saying they can't wait to go out there. I mean, it really is incredible. Don't they understand who is inside? And what side are they on? American citizens or illegal criminal migrants? 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Blue segment coming from Stanley, Wisconsin, where a man and multiple pets were rescued from a house fire by two local police officers there. Police received a call about flames in the kitchen of a home. And once they got there, they went into the home and they encountered very thick smoke that really engulfed the entire inside of the house at that point. They still pressed their way into the home, into the thick smoke. They found a man who was incoherent and initially resisted attempts to even remove him. Upon assessing the situation, they located another person on the living room floor. They grabbed the man's belt. They dragged him out of the home safely. They got the other guy out, and then they were able to locate and rescue multiple pets from the home as well. Both of the occupants and the dog, they're all expected to make a full recovery. And thank goodness for the men and women in blue, just moments after they rescued everyone inside. The house became completely engulfed in flames. Wow. Thank goodness for our great law enforcement getting there just in the nick of time. Well, I don't know how they can take it. The members of law enforcement right now, especially those who are out there outside of these ICE detention facilities and inside. I'm sure they're getting a lot of disrespect inside too as well. Oh, my food isn't good. It's cooked medium well. I like it medium. I like it well. Could I have steak sauce too? No, I like A1 better than this. That's what it sounds like to me. Wah, wah, wah. Well, people like, quote, Kyle from South Carolina who called in, whatever your name is, right? To me, it doesn't matter what people do. They're murderers. They're rapists. There's other people. I didn't hear one word about saying, well, maybe we should keep those people locked up. Maybe it's a good idea just for society that we do this. And today, President Trump in his cabinet meeting, of course, asked about Iran and everything else. And he was also asked about that ICE facility there in New Jersey. Take a listen.
I'd love to change the name, call it nice. They do a great job. and it's all paid-for protesters. You know, you can see by the signs. The signs are all made by the same beautiful factory. It's a printing plant. In fact, I'm thinking about using it. They do such a nice job. These aren't protesters. These people are fake. They're all paid for. And I will tell you, Tom Holman and that whole group, and now Mark Wayne is so incredible. Mark Wayne, do you want to just respond to that? Sure. We run the finest facilities anywhere in the world of their type. But we have some horrible killers. We have killers. We have guys that have murdered numerous people in there. And these are the people they're trying to protect. There's nobody that runs a facility like we do. Mark Webb, please.
Yeah, it shows this radical left Democrats' priorities when they decide to go out and protest a detention center where we're housing rapists, child predators, murderers.
And you heard him talking about individuals that are inside that location. And there are quite a bit of doozies that are in there. One of them, Jose de la Lena's, in there for homicide. Sounds like a nice guy. Gian Martinez Valverde, sex offense against a child. That sounds like a lovely person. Sergio Marquez Arbantes, enticement of a minor for indecent purposes. And here's another one, Antonio Gutierrez Arroyo, sex assault and resisting arrest. And then you have Juan Vaquez Reyes, homicide. All of them arrested in New Jersey. Sounds like a really nice group of individuals. And here is Senator Mark Wayne Mullen, because he's saying they might even go another step further, that these locations that are resisting ICE, that are not cooperating, that are, quote, sanctuary cities or, quote, sanctuary states, well, they may have to pay a heavy penalty. And maybe they should actually cut off enforcement at airports. Now, think about this. Customs and border enforcement, you know, when people come in, when they come in from a foreign country, they have to go through customs. So if you suddenly say, we're not going to supply ICE agents and customs folks to the border, why would we want to cooperate and help these states if they're not cooperating with us? If they don't send agents to those locations, they cannot take in international flights. So think about how devastating that would be to, like, a Newark International. And what about JFK? What about LaGuardia? I mean, there's a lot of these locations that definitely take in. What about LAX? That's front row and center, too. My goodness. Well, here is Secretary Mark Wayne Mullen on that.
House today, Sean, and I said, you know, if they're going to not allow us to go out and arrest the worst of the worst, and then when we call for assistance at the facilities, that the street, it belongs to the city. If it belonged to us, we would take care of it, but it belongs to the city, and they're barricading our employees from coming in and out of the facility. Then why are we processing international flights into the airport there? And we are currently, which we're not initiating yet, but we're currently drawing up plans to say, listen, in these sanctuary cities where the local radical left Democrats aren't allowing us to do our job and enforce federal laws, then we shouldn't be processing international flights into their cities either, because they don't want us to enforce immigration, but they want us to process immigration at their facilities. Nothing about that makes sense to me.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah, let me tell you something. That will really put those cities on notice. 1-800-848-9222, 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Robert in Brooklyn on line 4. Robert, your thoughts tonight?
Hi, Rita. Thanks for taking my call. Well, you know, Donald Trump, his biggest issue that he won on was enforcing the border and getting rid of these illegals, especially violent illegals. And, you know, everything is being done by the extreme Democrat Party, which is more like a socialist, anti-Semitic party, and allow the rhinos to undermine Trump. Nevertheless, Trump has closed the border, and he's doing a pretty good job considering all the opposition he has to deal with, both from the horrible Democrats and the fake fraud rhinos. Now, we had an election that just took place on Tuesday, primary, and you had Paxton beat Cornyn. Cornyn was in there a long time, a rhino, and Paxton is a diehard MAGA person, attorney general in Texas, who enforced the law and didn't back down from MAGA issues. And Trump supported Paxton. The John Thune and the Rhinos, they refused to pass the Save America Act. They would not do a standing filibuster. They undermined Trump, and President Trump endorsed Paxton. And Paxton
Robert, what's your point? We got it. What's your point?
Well, the point is that Trump has tremendous opposition, not just from the Democrats undermining him on the immigration, but a lot of these rhinos, he has to deal with them. He has to get rid of all these rhinos like Cornyn and all these Stone and all the rest of them who are undermining him if it's possible. I mean, in Maine, you can't do anything because the person in Collins, she's running against some Nazi communist or something, so you have to take Collins.
Yeah, and by the way, Robert, and you understand this because you're politically savvy, that in Maine, you got to have somebody who's a moderate, a full blown, conservative would be very hard in Maine, just given the demographics of Maine. There are a lot of MAGA in Maine, but there's also a lot of other folks there too. So, it's one of those issues, just like you said, that even if they maybe don't always vote in Trump's favor, like you often see Collins and you see Murkowski, Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, same situation. But they're still also Republicans, and those votes are important for President Trump. But I hear what you're saying about sort of weeding out, and you could tell he's clearly doing that. I mean, look what happened last night, and look what happened even the week or two before. You got rid of Thomas Massie, who he felt not necessarily a rhino, but clearly opponent to Trump in so many ways. It seems like he's weeding out a lot of these people that he doesn't believe are in line with the America First agenda and the Trump agenda. And I hear what you're saying, because if the Republicans lose the House and the Senate, or the House is going to be more difficult. It always usually is. But if they do, it's going to be a mess. It's going to be like blocking the Trump's agenda every turn. They're going to try to impeach. Al Green won't be there in the next Congress because he lost last night, but there's a lot of other mini Al Greens that are out there wagging their junior canes and shaking their canes and saying, impeach, impeach, impeach. So, I hear what you're saying, and Trump is clearly on that mission between now and November to do that. What do you make, Robert, too, while I have you here, what do you make of President Trump today saying, I can outweigh Iran? I'm not necessarily, they thought that they could kind of paralyze me with the midterms of politics. And I agree with him. I think they did think that. President Trump is saying that is not what I'm looking at. I am looking at the best deal, whatever's the right deal. It'll come together, and whenever it is, and if it doesn't, I'll unleash Pete Hegseth. So what do you make of that? That he's saying, I can outweigh Iran. I'm not in a rush. I'm not on this frantic political timetable like maybe some of his advisors think he should be. What do you think?
Well, Rita, I think with Iran, he needs the thing. President Trump is a very nice human being. He actually really cares about people. I know people think he's tough and all that because he has to fight back, but he really cares about people. And the thing is, if he's going to take out like the power stations and do irreparable harm to their energy infrastructure, he feels that he's going to be hurting a lot of the civilians. Tremendous pain he'd be inflicting on the Iranians. Unfortunately, the only way to get rid of this cancer, the Iranian regime, is to basically you have to go all out, meaning you have to take out the power stations. You have to do stuff that's very going to be unpopular, very distasteful. But unfortunately, because you're dealing with fanatics, it's almost like in Japan. Even after the second bomb, the atomic bomb in Japan, the cabinet was 50-50 split. It wasn't until the emperor decided to surrender. Iranians are the people who are fanatical. They're crazy people. Unfortunately, they just won't give in. And Trump, unfortunately, he's going to have to do something. I don't think he can keep waiting so long. It also takes an economic toll in this country. And Rita, I just want to address. You mentioned about Murkowski. There's one big difference between Murkowski and Collins. Collins, I understand, was stuck with her. That's the best you're going to get in Maine. But Alaska is Republicans. Alaska used to be hardcore Republican.
Yes, it did. You're right.
They came out with the relevancy voting, and Sarah Palin got shafted, and she said it was the relevancy voting, they're playing games. Rita, I have to point out that, I switched from the Republican to Democrat, not because I agree with them, but because I'm in New York City, and I saw that the only way to get the least, the most palatable possibility is to vote in the Democrat primary for someone like Cuomo, so you don't have a Mamdani get in office. And I am so upset that the Republicans, again, you have Curtis Lee again announcing that he's running. It's so disgusting, the Republicans in New York State, and especially in New York City, such a pathetic Republican Party. And,
Robert, hold on. In terms of the mayor's race, it is still really early. And I saw that he made that announcement. I mean, who knows? Everybody has a right to run whenever they want to, but it's still very early. So I believe that there's probably going to be a lot of names in the next mayor's race. I have no doubt about it. I mean, this is really super early to even say it. But I think it's going to be a very crowded field. That's just my feeling, because people are so disgusted with this current mayor. There's a lot of material to go after. So I think it's just the beginning, and boy, it's going to be an interesting race the next go round. Can you imagine? Everybody's going to get out. I mean, who's going to say, yeah, I want the guy who wouldn't march in the Israeli Day Parade. I want the guy who wouldn't condemn the protesters that were trying to storm the church. I want that guy who didn't care about the protesters blocking the synagogue. Yeah, that's the guy I want. So that's why I think whoever runs up against Mamdani, it will be a wild one. We thought the last race was wild. This one is going to be, I think there'll be a lot of names up there, and it's going to be interesting. I can't wait. We'll see. Thanks so much. Let's go to Robert in Philly on line 5. Go ahead, Robert. Your thoughts tonight, my friend.
Hi, Rita. As always, it's really good to talk to you.
You too.
That knucklehead Kyle, he saw crime drop 20% over the last year, and he's still claiming they're not having criminals in there. But it's not just him.
I know.
You were talking.
You know what? I mean, that kind of a person. I brought up the Trump derangement syndrome with him, because it's like Trump could cure cancer, and he'd be upset that he's alienating the pharmaceutical companies. Robert, I mean, this guy will give him nothing.
Kyle wouldn't care about curing cancer. All he cares about is Democrats winning. And when people like that are angry, it makes me happy. But a couple nights ago, there was something really telling. I was listening to you, almost drove off the road, because you were talking to Stan, and he twice referred to the immigrants that are still here as a cancer, and that Trump isn't going to do anything about it. And I'm thinking, you watched the guy you voted for bring this cancer in and yelled at us for complaining about it. And now he's got the nerve to say Trump isn't doing a good enough job getting rid of them. I don't care if everybody in them detention facilities are hardened criminals or not. If they're illegal immigrants, I want to see them all go. I'm realistic and know that won't happen, but as many as possible. The only thing I take solace in the fact is that when the bad immigrants are out of the red states, they'll either be deported or they'll be living in blue states, and it'll be their problem, and they'll get to live with the consequences of their elections, just like New York. That's why I was shocked by what Stan said.
Yeah, by the way, Robert, I remember when he said that, and you're right. It was really stunning, because he was like, get rid of them. I think they're cancers. I think they're this. And like you said, first of all, way too little, way too late from Stan and many other Democrats. And the fact when you let in 10 million people, and I appreciate the task. I actually really thought it was very interesting in the early days of the Trump second term when he said, we're offering volunteers, like if you want to leave, we'll send you back. Remember, they offered the flights, and then they said, we'll give you $1,000. And if you come back, we'll put you in the front of the line. We'll vet you and have you come back to the front of the line. I actually thought that was a good idea. I wish that more of them would have taken advantage of that. But I applaud them for trying. And just like you said, it's a whole heck of a lot different. And in fact, some of these people that are running in some of these blue states now, Robert, it really scares me. This Talarico, they call him Talafrico in Texas. He said it should be an open porch. Come one, come all. We're in trouble if some of these people get elected. Great points, Robert. Wonderful to hear from you, too. And everybody, we're going to continue your calls after the break here on The Rita Cosby Show. The number is 1-800-848-9222.
The Rita Cosby Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Rita Cosby Show. Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Jill Biden making a bombshell revelation, I guess to her, not to the rest of us, but she said she had never seen Joe Biden so out of it during that famous debate with Donald Trump in 2024. She thought he had a stroke, but she said she'd never seen anything like it before or after that moment, just during that debate. I want to know where she was before and afterwards, because we all saw his problems, and I don't think it was a stroke. He clearly had problems for a long, long time, and we're going to get into that after in the next hour. And also, Joe Biden suing to block his discussions with a book author where he essentially revealed that he knew he had classified information. That's according to reports. So does he have a case? Most people are saying no, no, and no. 1-800-848-9222. 1-800-848-9222. Let's go to Joaquin in Pennsylvania on line 4. Go ahead, Joaquin.
Good evening, Rita. First of all, I really want to give thumbs up to both Roberts. First, Robert, I'm on page with everything he was saying about MAGA candidates, and when it comes to Kyle, I smell a rat named Dave. And you know something? I personally really don't care if there's just plain illegal immigrants in that facility. Because you know something? As far as I'm concerned, illegal immigration is going to destroy this country, and they all need to go. And this whole thing about sanctuary cities, this affects everybody else in the whole country. And so these places, they have to be shut down. And I'm sorry, if I was in charge, I'd be going in there and I would have all my ducks in a row.
What do you mean by shut down? What do you mean by what? What do you mean by shut down?
The sanctuary, in other words, these sanctuary cities and states
need to be shut down. I agree. And Joaquin, I actually think it's time to get tough on some of these sanctuary cities and states. I hear what Mark Wayne Mullen's saying about maybe withholding funds, but you cannot defy federal immigration orders. You just can't do it. I don't know who they think they are.
The Rita Cosby Show.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.